by stating that this is a difficult gospel reading. And I'm noticing a trend here. Every time Anne goes on vacation and invites me to be the guest priest, it seems like we've got a difficult gospel reading. I know. I've got to start checking the lectionary before accepting the invitation. But joking aside, this is an uncomfortable reading to hear, isn't it? Because Jesus sounds really, really human. And I don't know about you, but if I'm honest with myself, I don't like that. I know, we believe that Jesus Christ is fully God and fully human, begotten, not made, before the beginning of creation, and yet born of the Virgin Mary. And we confess this every Sunday. As we confess, as we recite the Nicene Creed. But the truth is, I like to think about Jesus as God. I don't understand necessarily how this is true, how God the Son took on flesh and lived and died as one of us, but I can believe it. And I like believing it, in fact, because when Jesus does or says something that I find really challenging, I've got an out. I can let myself off the hook. I can say, oh, that's great for Jesus, he's God. But I'm not. It's this business about Jesus being human that makes me really uncomfortable. And this isn't a new discomfort. From the beginning, when the apostles went out and began spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ after his resurrection, Christians have wanted to downplay Jesus' humanity. But the church has always insisted that Jesus is both fully God and fully human. Irenaeus of Lyon, a very early theologian writing in the 2nd century, said, "That which he did not assume, he did not redeem." That is, if Jesus isn't actually fully human, warts and all, then all of the rest of us who are fully human are flawed. And this makes me uncomfortable, because it means that Jesus was human, warts and all. And I don't like the thought of Jesus having to make mistakes, or learn things, or be malicious, or bad at sports, or messy, or hungry, or cranky, or tired, or all of those all too human failings I see in my own life. Jesus is supposed to be perfect, right? But he doesn't sound perfect in the story from Matthew's Gospel, does he? He sounds like a jerk. And the story sounds uncomfortably like the headlines out of all the newspapers this week, doesn't it? You know, last time I preached on this passage, I could talk about how it sounded like headlines coming from other countries, with wars and rumors of wars. But right now, it sounds like the headlines from our own country, doesn't it? Headlines from our own city, where we see prejudice, racial division, white supremacy, and hate. And this is a story about prejudice and racial division. Make no mistake, Matthew calls the woman who comes to Jesus pleading for her daughter a Canaanite, not an Israelite. And that's odd, because when Matthew wrote his gospel, there weren't any Canaanites left. They'd been all wiped out by the Israelites, just like God commanded that they do in the book of Joshua. And that is another difficult bit of Scripture that Anne can explain to you another day. We've got enough on our plate this morning. The Canaanites were the ancient enemies of Israel. And so by naming her a Canaanite, Matthew is telling his readers, this woman is not one of us. And that's how Jesus treats her. He says, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And that certainly means he doesn't have time for dogs. And he doesn't mean nice, friendly, domesticated dogs either, like the one I have at home. Maybe some of you do as well. When we hear dog, we think about that beloved pet. But people in ancient Palestine didn't keep dogs as pets. The Romans did. But anyone in the territory of Palestine, that was a foreign custom. So whenever we hear dogs in the Bible, we're actually hearing about packs of wild animals. Scavengers who lived on the edges of cities. They were dangerous and feral. The kind of dog that a shepherd didn't want anywhere near his sheep. When Jesus calls this woman a dog, it's an insult. And quite frankly, it's a racially charged insult. Because this is what Jews would call non-Jews. So there's a lot in this story that makes me uncomfortable. It's not my favorite story from the Gospels, but it's one I think that's important for us to hear. It reminds me that when I was in seminary, one of my classes on spirituality, the professor put together a panel with a Roman Catholic nun, a Presbyterian minister, an imam, and a rabbi. And they were talking about how all of their different traditions viewed the spiritual life. And the rabbi on that panel, Herb Brockman, who actually used to be the associate rabbi at Baltimore Hebrew congregation on Park Heights Avenue here on Baltimore. I didn't know that till I moved here. But Rabbi Brockman said something that I don't think I'll ever forget. You Christians have forgotten how to argue with God. That's what it means to be Jewish. That's what Israel means. He struggles with God. And Rabbi Brockman went on to remind us of how the Hebrew Bible is filled of stories of people arguing with God. God comes to Abraham one evening and tells him that God is about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities of the plain, because of their iniquity. And what does Abraham do? Abraham says, God, what if there are 50 righteous people in those two cities? And God relents and says, for the sake of 50, I will not destroy. But Abraham doesn't stop there. He keeps going. And bit by bit, he argues God down to the point where if there are 10 righteous people, Sodom and Gomorrah will not be destroyed. And then there's Moses, who, if you read the books of Exodus and Numbers, God keeps coming to Moses whenever the children of Israel rebel, and God says, the children of Israel are a stubborn and stiff-necked people. I will destroy them and make a nation from you. And Moses each time says, God, you cannot destroy your people whom you rescued and brought up from the land of Egypt. And God relents. And there's story after story in the Hebrew Bible like this. Out of all the Gospels, Matthew is the one that quotes the Hebrew Bible the most. Every time you turn the page, Matthew is telling us again that Jesus did this to fulfill what was written in the word of the Lord spoken through the prophets. Or else Matthew is comparing Jesus to Moses. In Matthew's Gospel, Jesus gives 5 teaching discourses, just like Moses gives 5 books of law. Matthew expects his audience to understand this. Matthew knows this tradition in Israel's scriptures about arguing with God. And he assumes that we know it too. And that, I think, is what is happening in this story from Matthew's Gospel. That's why we need to hear it. This is a story about a woman arguing with God, pleading on behalf of her daughter, asking God to be more just. This woman, who was not an Israelite, demonstrates to all of us who are also not Israelites part of what it means to be God's people. We are called to argue with God. I don't think it's an accident that Matthew included this story in his gospel, written to a community that was trying to make sense out of how Jesus could be fully God and fully human. I think he was inspired by the Holy Spirit to put it in on purpose. And this doesn't mean that I like this story. It's still not my favorite story from the Gospels. It's not even in my top 10. But that's probably why I don't know about the rest of you, but I need to hear it right now, today. In a world that is so divided by race, by creed, by religion, by socioeconomic status, by every human division, I need the reminder that the people of God includes more people than I think it should, including people who are not like me. And this is a good thing. In a world where there is so much injustice, I need the reminder that my calling as one of God's people is to argue with God to be more just. I need to be reminded that I should be praying and working that God's will be done, God's kingdom come on earth, not just in heaven. And I'll be honest, I don't know if this arguing with God changes God's mind. To be perfectly frank, I'd be more comfortable if it didn't. If it was just some test that God put me through. But I do know that this arguing with God, this pleading for justice, changes me. And I need to be changed. I need to examine the ways in which my heart is hard. I need to confess the ways that I fail to love my neighbor as myself. C.S. Lewis once said, prayer doesn't change God. Prayer changes me. May God change all our hearts and minds through prayer and hasten the coming of His perfect kingdom where all human divisions are overcome. Amen.